Russia clears crypto for foreign trade, but cash out stays walled off. Russia has given a small set of exporters and importers a legal way to settle foreign trade contracts in cryptocurrency, including Bitcoin and dollar stablecoins. The authorization comes through the Bank of Russia's experimental legal regime, codified under federal law number 223 FZ, and was detailed in reporting published June 25, 2026. The domestic permission is real. The usefulness of it is not settled, because every step that turns crypto back into spendable money happens outside Russia's jurisdiction. That gap is the whole story. Moscow can write a law that says a Russian exporter may accept USDT for a shipment. It cannot write a law that forces a foreign exchange, custodian, or stablecoin issuer to process the conversion. A domestic permission with a foreign choke point. The experimental regime lets approved companies use digital assets for cross-border settlement under foreign trade agreements, a workaround for businesses cut off from conventional banking channels. No public list of approved participants, permitted asset types, or transaction volumes has been disclosed, which makes the program difficult to size from the outside. The restrictions sit on the other side of the trade. Stablecoin issuers such as Circle and Tether keep contractual controls and sanctions compliance frameworks on USDC and USDT and can freeze addresses tied to sanctioned entities. Exchanges and over-the-counter desks screen settlement conversions for sanctions exposure before they touch them. Custodians, wallets, and liquidity providers outside Russia carry secondary sanctions risk if they handle the flow. And any foreign counterparty has to independently agree to accept the route in the first place. Bitcoin and stablecoins carry different compliance profiles here. Centralized stablecoins are the easiest to freeze, since the issuer controls the contract. Bitcoin cannot be frozen at the protocol level, but the moment it has to become fiat, it runs into the same exchange and banking gatekeepers. Neither option escapes the off-ramp. The legislation behind the corridor, the experimental regime, is not new. The Bank of Russia first opened cross-border crypto settlement to exporters and importers in 2024. The 2026 development is a broader bill that cleared its first reading in the State Duma in April 2026, setting out rules for cryptocurrency circulation, eligibility criteria for market participants, and which institutions supervise them. A notable clause creates a simplified access procedure for entities already operating inside the experimental regime, plus banks and brokers that want to expand into crypto. The framework is expected to take effect on July 1, 2026 if it clears the remaining legislative stages. The split in Russian policy is sharp. Cross-border settlement is being widened, while domestic crypto payments stay banned, with fines for Russians who pay in crypto at home. Russia wants the asset class as a trade settlement tool for a sanctioned economy, not as a parallel domestic currency. A legal route that stops at the border. The episode is a live test of how far a national legal framework can stretch against a privately enforced sanctions perimeter. Settlement value increasingly rides on dollar stablecoins like USDC and USDT, and those rails answer to their issuers' compliance teams, not to a settlement law passed in Moscow. A legal route at home does not buy access to liquidity abroad. For anyone watching crypto inside Russia, the practical takeaway is unchanged. Usable spending and cash out depend on counterparties willing to take the other side, and most regulated ones still will not. It echoes recent sanctions evasion cases, where on-chain volume looked large until the off-ramps were mapped and the exposure narrowed to a handful of cooperating venues. Markets, for their part, were not trading on Russian trade law. Bitcoin sat at roughly $59,714 as of June 25, 2026, down 1.8% on the day, with the Fear and Greed Index at 16, deep in extreme fear territory. The regulatory shift is structural, not a price catalyst.